Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. So today I thought we could just jump right into charts. Last week was a very ominous week. There are a lot of people calling for a crash this week. It's possible that a lot of people could be right all at the same time together and make a lot of money at the same time together in a well choreographed sequence. Well, let's see. It's possible. Okay, let's talk charts. Whoop. All right. So starting off with ES Weekly here. Last week didn't end on the best note for bulls, but ultimately you can see here it was an inside candle, right? It still ended above the start of the week before, and it really didn't leave this range. So it's just looks like more consolidation to me. If you think an inverse hammer is potentially bearish, I'd like you to take a look at this one. That is much more bearish looking, and it wasn't really bearish at all, was it? That was the whole, the first week to look like a top isn't a top week. And I'm not saying that here. It definitively could go down. That's certainly possible. And for now, it is below the ambulance line, which is sort of my, key line, if you will. My kind of, above there is okay. Below there, I don't know. But it's still here above an RSI sort of support below that. So it's got some room to continue down a little bit and still look bullish to me on the weekly. These are the pivots I'm watching. From a bull perspective, of course, I would like to see a close above 30.39 next week. And otherwise, I'll be watching these pivots and see what happens and see if which way I'll be trading here. I'm in cash right now. So from a daily perspective, I had mentioned earlier in the week, I tweeted that, it was starting to look like a giant bull flag. And it's still within the confines of those bull flags. Guys, it's not normal for things to just go straight up and not consolidate at all. And as far as I'm concerned, this still looks like a giant bull flag to me. Now, I'm not, by the way, I'm not like paying attention to all the COVID stuff and whatever. I mean, I see it, I hear it, but I don't care about any of that. Just technically speaking, I'm just calling out what I see. So, it really, ES could dip to the bottom of Eric's line here, really, and even a little bit below, as long as it closes above this diagonal corner, as long as it closes above 2,900, I'll still be bullish for now, because the trend for the past 3 weeks or so, right, has been down. But before that, since March 23rd, the trend was up. So at a stage like this, when I was sort of saying, hey, time to get hedged, whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that was the very top. It just means like I saw some volatility ahead. And yeah, I don't have an issue actually with more consolidation here, more testing of the MAs. And it looks like a triangle right now. You can sort of squint and see it. But ultimately, I think that it looks like a bull flag to me. I could be wrong. Now I drew in some dotted like RSI line here, and it's because at first I thought that this might be some bearish divergence. That would have, given more credence to the bear play, at least for the coming week or days. But actually, when I dove into it, this week did close lower than the previous week, so it's not. But I'm going to leave it there because I just like knowing how I think, and we'll see what happens from here. But if futures do dip on Sunday or Monday and Tuesday, I'll be looking to buy the dip still. I will. And I'll change my mind pretty dang fast if we get below or close below this 2,900. But for now, I might scalp short, but I'll be ultimately looking to buy the dip this week if it happens. Okay. So, oops. I wanted to include this because I had been sort of sharing some scalp and possibly swing trades with everybody. And I had said in my tweet, and I'm presenting this as a case of bias, because I said in my tweet that, potentially this could be an inverse Head and Shoulders, but that this line, which is the Navarro line, which I still haven't labeled properly, I think that's why I had that thing up, needed to hold. Well, it didn't hold. And not only did it not hold, we even back tested it. Not exactly, but, close enough. And I still didn't take the short. So when I say in something, when I have a bullish bias and I say something needs to hold, what I really should say is, and if it doesn't, that's bad. And that is what happened. It did not hold, and for those who took the short below the Navarro line, that's great. I just wanted to point that out, that my own bias kept me from taking a pretty freaking obvious trade that even I called out. All right, that was it. Let's talk about gold. Above resistance here, nice back test of it. Bullish. Okay, let's talk about silver. Let's see. I still think this looks flagalicious. We did close barely above the key on Friday. I think it was causing some people that had some calls, some problems. I think so. We'll have to see. But of course, I would look to buy any dip, although I do not believe that if it dips back to these magnet lines, that would be a buy necessarily. So I'll have to wait and see if that looks more like a flag if it does dip. But my bias is actually bullish for silver at this time. We've kept above this resistance. We've closed above this resistance again and again. And my bias is still to the upside here. Okay, so let's look at oil. The weekly chart for oil didn't do a lot last week, but a higher high and a higher low. Ended up closing somewhere just below the highs of the week before. I mean, not a lot to say there. It did finish closing this gap that was from the big start of the big drop here, but I'm going to start to pay a lot more attention to it if it gets above 42.61 or if it starts looking shortable to me. But it does have an MA cross here that should provide some amount of support here if price does go back below or come down here. And let's look at the 4 hour. I mean, it's just bullish waves, right? I mean, how great are these previous gap lines? Now I know you probably say, well, there's so many lines on your chart, how could it not hit one? But I know which ones are important at any given time, and so that's my key. Yeah, but yeah, I will start trading it again soon. I don't know. I want it to show me some things that I'm used to seeing, and I've been seeing them recently. I just haven't pulled the trigger on an oil trade. Yeah, I'd still probably lean to the short side because I got problems, y'all. I got problems, but we'll see, because if it does get above that weekly pivot, and in fact this 41.63, it'll probably squeeze above 41.63. So if it gets above 41.63, I will start paying attention to it for long. And if it tests it and doesn't get above, or if it starts to drop in some meaningful way, I will certainly let you know if I short something. All right, let's talk about NETI, natural gas. So I had shared this continuous chart on Twitter right about here, saying I didn't believe in such thing as a triple bottom, and it did go lower, but I still don't have it bouncing off of price and RSI support. However, I know a lot of people bought it, and a lot of people are ahead on it from the lows. And I appreciate that. If you've done well with it, that's fantastic. I mean, I love to catch knives, as you know. My concern primarily isn't even technical, because it doesn't have to bounce off of price and RSI support for it to be a buy. My concern is the same as when a lot of people bought oil at 21, and there was so much boasting going on of how many bottom catchers there were. Bottom catching isn't really a great thing to boast about, especially if there's a lot of people doing it with you at the same time. It just means that potentially you got a good scalp up from support or you picked a good entry, just because it's super unlikely that a lot of people would be able to catch the bottom at the same time. And I don't see any real, at least on this chart, I don't see any real turnaround for, any real, like, I forgot what it's called. I can't think right now. Wallaby's barking at me. When a lot of people give up at the same time. I don't know. Anyway, I don't see that on this chart, and a lot of people were calling the bottom. But anyway, on Monday, if it gets back above the ambulance, I will certainly reconsider my position and probably go long. And if it does not, then yeah, I'll look for about 134 or so on Monday, and that number just keeps getting lower and lower. And hopefully that would coincide with RSI support, though. And if it does, I'll take a stab at it. But it is true what I say here. Any break below, the ambulance line is extra bearish. It's really not a time, unless it's a false breakdown, and so far we haven't seen that. Like I said, it gets back above the ambulance line, I'll consider it. A false breakdown would be very, very bullish. Very, very bullish. So we'll have to see. But right now, yeah. Okay, well, that's it. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. I hope that was helpful in some way. And I will see you on the interwebs. Okay. Oh, I forgot to go big again. I don't know how to do this. All right. Okay. Bye.